Hi, and welcome back to Algebra 1. Our goal for today is to continue working with our factoring completely when our degrees on our polynomial are 2 or higher, and more specifically when I give you a quadrinomial to start, which is the simplest of these. I have to factor by GCF and chart method problems. So from our previous lesson, we should understand that our golden rule we have to follow when factoring is, if my highest degree is a 1, making it a linear polynomial, then the only factoring that could happen is GCF, right? I would pull out my GCF and then I'd say, well, there's nothing else I can do from that point on. If my degree of my polynomial is 2 or higher, right? Quadratics, cubics, quartics, and so on, then I have to check for GCF factors first. And then with the leftover portion, if it still has a degree of 2 or higher, I have to go to my chart to see if I can factor it further from there. So that's our goal again for today. We're going to do a couple extra examples in our notebook, not our packet. Right? So we're in our notebook for today. How do we go from this expanded version to the factored by GCF version, and then the factored completely version from our chart? Right? We want to get all the way. We don't want to stop at just this GCF step when we can factor it further. So be careful. All right, so extra example number 1. All right, we want to factor our quadratic quadrinomial here, of 84y squared plus 36y minus 84y minus 36. Again, our first thing we want to look for is our greatest common factor. In this case, there is a GCF. So I'm looking at that and I say, maybe it's 2. Maybe it's 6, right? If I'm not sure, go to your scratch paper, do your chart and your trees, and see what that GCF value is. For this particular problem, the biggest thing that 84, 36, negative 84, and negative 36 have in common is the number 12. Right? So we're going to factor that out. Then y squared, y to the first, no y. So since not every term has a y, we can't pull it out, right? There would have to be a y on this negative 36 to be able to pull it out here. Remember, if we're pulling it out, it's something every single term has in common. All right, so let's think of our leftovers here. Right? We need to divide and see what's left over. 84 divided by 12 would give us a 7y squared left over. 36 divided by 12 would give us a 3y left over. Again, we have an 84 here that's getting divided by 12, but it's negative, so now minus 7y. And then again, a 36, but now it's a negative that's getting divided by 12 to give us a negative 30. All right, don't forget, this factor of 12 is done. Bring it down here for your final answer, because now we have to go, this polynomial here still has a degree of 2 or higher, so we have to keep going with it. We have to go to our chart and see if we can factor it further. So 7y squared, a 3y, a negative 7y, and a negative 3. All right, row by row, column by column, let's pull out our GCFs. Top 7 and 3 don't have a common factor. So I can put a 1 out there or just leave it with no number. And then y squared and y both share at least a 1. So I could have y or 1y out there. All right, our starred block here is negative, which means this red block is negative. So negative 7y and negative 3. The only thing they would share is a negative, in this case, of 1. All right, which means y minus 1 is one of my factors in my final answer. All right, let's do that same task with our columns. 7y squared and negative 7y. Now be careful, this star block only makes this one negative, not this one up here, so be careful. So 7y squared and negative 7y, they both have a 7 in common, and they both have at least one y. So 7y is going to get factored out of there. All right, 3y and negative 3. Again, this starred one's positive, so I don't have to automatically pull it out there. These both share a 3. That's what's going to get pulled out here. And so we should see our second factor from our chart is 7y plus 3. In this case, we have 3 total factors. A factor of 12, a factor of y minus 1, and a factor of 7y plus 3. Good final factored version. If I want to check my answer, I FOIL or multiply it back out. 12 times y, 12 times -1 to get 12y minus 12. Then I FOIL, and I should get back up to that 84y squared plus 36y minus 84y minus 36. All right, let's try another. Number 2. All right, negative 30x squared minus 10x plus 6 plus 2. All right, please remember, rule number 1 for factoring with our chart is if the leading coefficient is negative, we have to pull it out before we go to our chart method, so be careful. So I'm guaranteeing I'm pulling out at least a -1 out here. So I want to see if there's more than just a -1 that I should be pulling out. All right, 30, 10, 6, and 2. They all can be divided by 2. So this is going to be a -2 out here. All right, x, no x on that last term, so I cannot pull out an x. So all we can pull out is a number here, -2. Now be careful with your leftover signs. A negative divided by a negative here would give us a positive on the inside of 15x squared. -10 divided by -2 would give us a positive in here again of 5x. A positive 6 divided by a -2 would give us a leftover -3x. And 2 divided by -2 would give us a leftover here of -1. Or the other way to think of it is when I pull out a negative out here, the leftovers are all going to be opposites of what they originally were. So negative became a positive, and negative became a positive, positive became a negative, and a positive became a negative, right? That'd be sort of your shortcut to know your sign. All right, -2 is done. It's a factor. Bring it down. Don't forget about it. I promise people are going to leave it off of their answer, even though they had it on this step up here, so be careful. All right, we have a 15x squared, a 5x, a minus 3x, and a -1. Row by row, column by column, let's do our factoring. 15x squared and 5x, they both share a 5, and they both have at least one x. Factor it out. All right, our star block is negative, so this red one's negative. -3x and -1. -1 would be the only thing we could pull out from there. All right, so we have a second factor down here, 5x minus 1. All right, let's do our columns. 15x squared and -3x. They both share a 3 and an x. Pull that out. All right, so 5x and -1 don't have any common factor, so this is just a 1. It's not negative because the starred one's not negative, so be careful. All right, so 3x plus 1 would be our other factor here. So -2 times a 5x minus 1 times a 3x plus 1. All right, number 3. 3g to the third minus 9g squared plus 15g squared minus 45. All right, we want to start with our greatest common factor if there is one. 3, 9, 15, 45 can all be divided perfectly by 3. So it's a number they share, so we pull that out. And then g to the third, g squared, g, they all at least have one g. So I can factor that out front. Don't forget to look for both the numbers they share and the letters. All right, let's go to our leftovers. Let's see what's left over here. 3g's to the third. I took the 3 out and 1g out, so there's 2g's left over in here. All right, -9g squared, we took 3 out, so there's a -3 left, and we took out one of the 2g's, so there's still one inside. All right, 15g squared divided by 3 would give us a positive 5, and we took out 1g, so 1g still left over in here. All right, -45g, we took the g out, so no more g on the inside. And 45 divided by 3 is just a negative, or -45 divided by 3 would give us a -15. All right, this 3g is done. Bring it down. I know those factors. Bring it down. All right, g squared minus 3g plus 5g and minus 15. Row by row, column by column, let's pull out our greatest common factors. All right, top row of g squared minus 3g. They both share a g, that's it, or a 1g if you want to put a number there. All right, bottom row, 5g and -15 both share a 5, and it should be a positive, not a negative, so be careful with your sign. All right, this first column, g squared and 5g, they just share a g. And then over here, -3g and -15, starred one's negative, that goes out here automatically, and they both share a 3. All right, so we have a factor over here, g plus 5. and a factor up here of g minus 3. Good final, factored version, 3g times g plus 5 times a g minus 3. All right, let's try one more together, and then we'll be off to attempt some on your own. All right, negative 7x squared plus a 21x minus 14x plus 42. Rule number 1, if my leading coefficient when I go to factor using my chart is negative, then I have to pull it out front. Right, so this has to come out. Even if it's the only thing we can pull out, a negative or a -1, right? It has to come out. All right, then I look to see if there's other stuff we can pull out. In this case, 7, 21, 14, and 42 all share a common factor of 7. So this is going to be a -7. X squared, x, no x, so I can't pull out the x because they don't all have it. All right, our leftovers then, right? -7's done. Bring it down here, all right? This would still be an x squared. All right, a positive divided by a negative would give us a negative in here of 3x. A negative divided by a negative in here would give us a positive with 2x now. And a positive divided by this negative would give us a negative in here of 6. So be careful with your signs when we pull out a negative GCF number. All right, x squared, -3x, 2x, and -6. Row by row, column by column, let's get our other two factors. All right, top row, they both share an x. That's it, nothing else. Bottom row, they both share a 2. So one of our factors down here would be an x plus 2. All right, our columns going this way, x squared and 2x. Again, they just share an x. That's it, no number. And -3, oop, this is negative, bring it out. -3x and -6 both share a -3. So our other factor here is an x minus 3. All right, good final, factored version, a -7 times x plus 2 times an x plus 3. All right, I hope that helps you attack your work for today. See you guys later.